The first time Evelyn Carter saw Dante Moretti outside a courtroom, he was standing in the shadows of the courthouse garage like he owned the darkness itself. Rain hammered the concrete ramps above them, leaking through cracks in the ceiling and dripping onto the polished hood of her black sedan. It was almost midnight. The courthouse should have been empty except for night security, janitors, and the ghosts of all the people who had lied under oath. But Dante Moretti was there. No guards beside him. No visible weapon. No expression. Just a black tailored coat, dark hair slick from the rain, and eyes so calm they felt more dangerous than rage. Evelyn froze with one hand on her car door. She knew his face the way every prosecutor, journalist, judge, and police captain in Chicago knew his face: Dante Moretti. The man newspapers called the Ice King of the South Loop. The man rumored to control half the city's ports, 3 private security firms, and enough politicians to make a courtroom feel like theater. The man her testimony was supposed to destroy tomorrow morning. Her fingers tightened around her keys. "You're trespassing on federal property," she said. Dante didn't move. "And you're about to testify in a case you don't understand." His voice was quiet, controlled, almost gentle. That made it worse. Evelyn lifted her chin, forcing her pulse to steady. "If you came here to scare me, you're too late." "I didn't come to scare you." "Then why are you here?" The fluorescent lights flickered above them. Somewhere in the garage, water rushed through a drain, like distant applause. Dante took one step forward. Evelyn refused to step back. He looked at her, the way a man might look at a candle burning in a room full of gasoline. "If you walk into that courtroom tomorrow," he said, "the whole city will bury you with the truth." Evelyn felt the words land cold in her chest. For 1 second, the garage disappeared. There was only his face, his stillness, his impossible certainty. Then anger saved hair. "You think threatening me will make me stay silent?" His jaw tightened slightly. That wasn't a threat. Then what was it? A warning. She laughed once, sharp and humorless. "From a mafia boss?" His eyes flicked to her mouth, then back to her eyes. The movement was so subtle she almost wondered if she imagined it. Especially from a mafia boss. Evelyn stepped closer, close enough to smell rain on his coat and expensive cologne beneath it. "Tomorrow, I testify. I tell the jury what I found. I tell them about the shell companies, the illegal transfers, the judge who disappeared after signing the warrant, and the bodies tied to your family's name." Something moved behind Dante's eyes. Not guilt. Pain. It vanished too quickly for her to understand. "You found what someone wanted you to find," he said. "Convenient. Deadly." She opened her car door. "Move." Dante looked down at the open door, then back at her. "Your brakes were cut 20 minutes ago." The sentence drained the blood from her face. Evelyn looked at her car. The rainwater dripping down the windshield suddenly looked like fingers. "You're lying." Dante reached into his coat slowly. She stiffened. He pulled out a small silver blade, not a weapon, but a folded utility knife, and tossed it onto the wet concrete near her feet. Attached to it was a strip of black rubber, sliced clean through. Her throat tightened. She stared at the severed brake line. Then she heard tires. A black SUV rolled into the far end of the garage, then another behind it. Their headlights spilled across the concrete pillars, white and cold. Dante turned his head slightly. For the first time, his calm changed. Not fear. Calculation. "Get behind me," he said. Evelyn did not move. "Who are they?" "Not mine." The SUV doors opened. Men stepped out. Evelyn saw dark coats, gloves, the metallic glint of guns half hidden beneath jackets. Her body went numb. Dante moved before she could scream. One hand closed around her wrist, firm and warm, and he pulled her behind a concrete pillar as the first shot cracked through the garage. The sound tore through the night. Glass exploded from her car window. Evelyn gasped. But Dante pressed her against the pillar with his body shielding hers, one hand braced beside her head. His face close enough that she could see the faint scar near his eyebrow. "Don't move," he whispered. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "You brought them here," she breathed. His eyes locked on hers. "If I had brought them, you'd already be dead." Another shot hit the pillar. Concrete dust rained over them. Dante's men appeared from the dark like shadows with purpose. Not chaotic, not panicked, silent and controlled. The garage became a blur of headlights, gunfire, rain, and screeching tires. Evelyn stood trapped between a wall and the most dangerous man in Chicago, realizing with horror that he was the only thing keeping her alive. Dante leaned closer. "Listen to me carefully," he said. "In 10 seconds, I'm going to move. When I do, you run to the black car on the left. Not the right, the left. I'm not going anywhere with you." His mouth barely moved, but his voice cut through the gunfire. "Yes, you are." "Why?" For the first time, Dante looked at her like control cost him something. "Because someone you trust wants you dead." Before she could answer, he pulled her into the storm. They ran through the garage as bullets sparked against metal behind them. Evelyn's heels slipped on wet concrete. Dante caught her before she fell, his arm wrapping around her waist with brutal certainty. A black car door opened ahead. She was shoved inside. Dante followed, slamming the door as the vehicle shot forward. The courthouse disappeared behind them in a scream of tires and rain. Evelyn pressed herself against the opposite door, breathing hard, her hands shaking. Dante sat beside her, calm again, as if men hadn't just tried to murder them beneath a federal courthouse. His sleeve was torn near the shoulder. Dark blood spread through the fabric. "You're bleeding," she said before she could stop herself. He glanced at it. "It's not important. It is if you bleed on my evidence bag." His eyes found hers. For one strange second, something almost like amusement flickered there. Then his face turned cold again. "You still think tomorrow is about evidence?" She swallowed. "What is it about?" Dante looked out at the rain-smeared city lights. "Execution." By morning, Evelyn Carter was missing from every news camera outside the courthouse. That was how the city learned something had gone wrong. Reporters stood beneath umbrellas, shouting over the rain, asking where the star witness was. Prosecutors avoided eye contact. Federal agents moved in tight circles. Her father, Judge Charles Carter, gave a short public statement from the marble courthouse steps, his silver hair perfect, his voice trembling with all the right emotions. "My daughter has dedicated her life to justice," he said. "We are deeply concerned for her safety." Evelyn watched him on a wall-sized television from the top floor of Dante Moretti's penthouse. The room was all glass, stone, and shadows. Chicago spread beneath her like a city built from knives and wet neon. Rain dragged silver lines down the windows. The lake was black beyond the towers. She stood barefoot on heated marble, still wearing yesterday's white suit, now stained with garage, water, and fear. Dante stood behind her near the bar, one hand bandaged beneath his cuff, phone pressed to his ear. He spoke in Italian, low and clipped. Every man in the room watched him, as if his silence could sentence them. Evelyn turned up the volume when her father appeared again. "If anyone has information about Evelyn's whereabouts," Judge Carter said, "please contact federal authorities immediately." Her stomach twisted. He looked terrified. He sounded like a father. For 1 second, she almost wanted to run to him. Then Dante ended his call. "He's convincing," he said. Evelyn turned. "He's worried. He's performing." Her anger sparked instantly. "Don't talk about my father like you know him." "I do know him." "No, you know his name. You know his position. You know how to twist things because that's what men like you do." Dante approached slowly, not rushing, never rushing. That made him feel even more dangerous, like time adjusted itself around him. "Men like me don't pretend to be clean," he said. "That's the difference." She hated that sentence. She hated that she had no immediate answer. A man in a black suit entered the room carrying a tray with coffee, fresh clothes, and a sealed folder. Dante took the folder but did not open it. "You'll shower," he said. "Eat. Sleep." Evelyn laughed. "You're giving me orders now?" "Yes. I'm not your prisoner." "No," he said. "Prisoners are safer. You're a target." She stepped close to him, close enough that his men looked away. "I am an attorney. I know what unlawful detention looks like." Dante's gaze dropped briefly to her mouth again. This time she noticed. Her pulse betrayed her. "I'm not detaining you," he said. "You dragged me into your car. Your alternative was dying in a parking garage. You think that makes you a hero?" His face hardened. "No, I've never been a hero." The honesty of it unsettled her more than a lie would have. He held out the folder. "What is that?" she asked. "Your office." Her hand went cold. She took the folder and opened it. Photographs spilled into her hands. Her office windows shattered. Filing cabinets ripped open. Her desk split down the center. Case files scattered across the floor. A picture frame of her and her father, crushed beneath someone's boot. Evelyn sat down before her knees gave out. Dante watched her, silent. "When?" she whispered. 40 minutes after I took you." Her eyes burned. "They were looking for evidence." "They were looking for you." She looked up at him. How do you know? Dante took one photograph from the folder and placed it on the table. It showed the wall behind her desk. Written across it in red paint were 3 words. She testifies, she dies. Evelyn stared until the letters blurred. For the first time since the garage, fear made it past her pride. Dante saw it. His face changed again, subtly, like something in him tightened against the sight of her breaking. You should have let me call the U.S. attorney, she said. They have a leak. The FBI? A worse one. My father? He said nothing. Evelyn rose so fast the folder fell from her lap. No. Dante's eyes remained steady. No, she repeated, but weaker this time. You don't get to say that. You don't get to drag my father into this because you need someone else to blame. I didn't say his name. You didn't have to. Dante slipped his hands into his pockets. Tell me something. Evelyn. Who told you to testify tomorrow instead of next week? Her lips parted. The answer came too quickly in her mind. Her father. He said the delay would give your lawyers time to bury more evidence, she said. Who told you the financial records were authentic? Her throat tightened. My father reviewed them with me. And who introduced you to the federal investigator who brought them? Evelyn looked away. Dante's voice lowered. Your father. The city outside flashed with lightning. She wanted to argue, wanted to throw the folder at him, wanted to call him a liar and a criminal and a monster. But memory moved against her. Her father insisting she take the case. Her father warning her that Dante Moretti was too dangerous to hesitate. Her father telling her the city needed a clean Carter to finish what corrupt men had failed to do. Her father kissing her forehead outside court and saying, "You're the only one I trust." Evelyn pressed a hand to her stomach. Dante's voice softened by 1 degree. He built the courtroom around you. Stop. He gave you the evidence. Stop. He made sure you became the face of the case. Stop. He put the target on your back. She slapped him. The room went completely still. Every man turned toward them. Dante's face moved with the impact, but he did not touch his cheek. He did not step away. He did not punish her for it. He only looked at her. The silence after the slap was more intimate than any touch. Evelyn's hand shook. I hate you, she whispered. Dante's eyes darkened. I know. No, you don't. You don't know what it feels like to have your whole life turned into a weapon. Something brutal and haunted crossed his face. Yes, he said quietly, I do. She hated that too, because for 1 second, she believed him. Dante Moretti's penthouse had no clocks. Evelyn noticed that on the 2nd day, time became measured in rain, phone calls, unread messages, and the silent movement of armed men beyond glass walls. She slept in a guest room with a locked window, clean clothes folded at the foot of the bed, and 2 guards outside the hallway who pretended not to notice when she tried the door. It opened. Every time. That made her angrier. He wasn't keeping her with locks. He was keeping her with fear. And worse, evidence. On the 2nd night, Dante brought her into a private room behind his study. It was not a bedroom. It was a surveillance room. Monitors covered the wall, glowing blue in the dark. Evelyn stopped at the threshold, her skin prickling. There was her apartment lobby, her office building, the courthouse entrance, the street outside her favorite coffee shop. Her breath caught. You've been watching me. Dante stood beside her, unreadable. I've been protecting you. For how long? He did not answer. How long, Dante? His name left her mouth before she could stop it. His gaze shifted to her. 6 months. The room tilted. 6 months? When your name appeared in the Moretti case file. She stepped toward the screens, horror rising. You knew where I lived. Where I worked. Where I got coffee. Yes. Do you understand how insane that sounds? Yes. But you did it anyway. Yes. She turned on him. Why? For the first time, Dante looked away. Not because he was ashamed. Because the answer mattered. There are only 2 kinds of people who get close to my world, he said. People who want power. And people who are about to be destroyed by it. I needed to know which one you were. And, his eyes returned to hers. You were neither. The quiet confession slipped beneath her anger. He walked to a table and opened a metal case. Inside were documents, photographs, drive copies, old newspaper clippings, and 1 small black recorder. Evelyn stared at it. What is this? The reason your father wants me dead. The words landed like ice. Dante pressed play. Static filled the room. Then voices. Younger voices. One she did not recognize. One she did. Her father. Evelyn's breath stopped. Charles Carter's voice was lower in the recording, younger but unmistakable. If Moretti saw it, then Moretti disappears. I don't care how old the boy is. A second voice answered. He's 16. Her father's voice sharpened. Then he's old enough to understand consequences. Evelyn gripped the edge of the table. The recording continued. Names, payments, a dock fire, a witness list, a judge's signature, a woman named Sophia Moretti. Dante stood motionless beside her. Evelyn turned slowly. Sophia. My mother. The room went quiet except for rain against the glass. Dante looked at the recorder as if it were a grave. She worked as a bookkeeper for your father's campaign finance office, he said. She found money moving through shell charities, money tied to the Bellini family. She tried to expose it. Evelyn whispered. What happened? Dante's mouth tightened. They burned our house with her inside. A chill moved over her skin. I survived because she pushed me out a window. Evelyn closed her eyes. The monster in front of her had once been a boy on the pavement beneath a burning house, and her father's voice had been on the tape. She opened her eyes again, fighting tears she refused to give him. Why didn't you use this years ago? Dante looked at her. Because no one would believe a Moretti over a Carter. The truth hurt because it sounded exactly like the world she knew. And now? Now your father needs me convicted before this recording reaches court. Evelyn looked back at the screens. Her apartment, her office, her life. All of it watched by a man who should have hated her. Why protect me? She asked. If my father did that to your family, why not let me walk into court and die with his lies? Dante moved closer. Slowly. The air changed between them. Because you're not him. Her throat tightened. You don't know that. I do. How? He stopped close enough for her to feel the heat of him. Because when you thought I was guilty, you still looked me in the eye. Your father never did. The words were too intimate, too careful, too close to kindness. Evelyn backed away. This doesn't make you innocent. No. You've hurt people. Yes. You've built an empire on fear. Yes. Then why should I trust you? Dante's face hardened again, as if he preferred her anger. You shouldn't. She stared at him. He stepped back. You should trust the evidence. Then he left her alone with the recording of her father's betrayal. Evelyn listened to it 12 times before dawn. Each time, her father's voice became less like memory and more like a knife. The scandal broke before Evelyn could decide what to do. A video leaked online at 8:17 a.m. It showed Evelyn entering Dante Moretti's car after the courthouse garage attack. There was no gunfire in the clip, no cut brake line, no men shooting at her. Just Dante pulling her into his vehicle. The caption spread faster than truth ever could. Lawyer vanishes with Mafia Boss before testimony. By noon, every news outlet had turned her into either a victim, a traitor, or a lover. By evening, her father gave another statement. This time, he looked broken. My daughter may be under emotional manipulation, Judge Carter said. Dante Moretti is a dangerous man. If Evelyn can hear this, sweetheart, come home. Evelyn watched from Dante's study, arms wrapped around herself. Sweetheart. The word made her feel 8 years old and sick at the same time. Dante stood in the doorway, watching her watch him. He knows how to make you doubt yourself, he said. She didn't turn around. He raised me. He trained you. The words hit too close. She faced him. You don't get to dissect my childhood. Dante's expression remained calm, but something dangerous moved beneath it. He just called you unstable on national television. Her eyes burned. I heard him. He made the city question your mind before you could question his guilt. I said I heard him. Dante stepped into the room. And you're still defending him. I'm trying to survive losing the only parent I have left. The room went still. For once, Dante had no answer. Evelyn regretted the confession the moment it left her mouth. It was too vulnerable, too human. She turned toward the window. Chicago glimmered beneath storm clouds. Somewhere down there, people were watching her face on television, judging her choices, believing whatever version of her story was easiest to digest. Behind her, Dante's voice was quieter. My father taught me that love was leverage, he said. She did not turn around. He used grief like currency, loyalty like a chain. By the time I killed his influence over my family, there was nothing soft left in me. Evelyn swallowed. Dante moved closer, but stopped before touching her. I'm not asking you to stop loving your father, he said. I'm telling you he knows that you do. A tear slipped down her cheek. She hated that he saw it. She hated more that he did not use it against her. His hand lifted slightly, as if he might wipe it away. Then he stopped. The restraint hurt more than touch would have. "Why do you do that?" she whispered. "What?" "Almost touch me." His eyes darkened. A long silence stretched between them. "Because if I start," he said, "I don't trust myself to stop." Evelyn's breath caught. Danger should have made her step back. Instead, she stood still. Dante's gaze dropped to her lips. The world outside flashed with lightning. Then his phone rang. The moment shattered. His expression turned cold as he answered. He listened for 5 seconds. Then every trace of softness disappeared. "What happened?" Evelyn asked. Dante looked at her. "Your father just filed an emergency order claiming I kidnapped you." Her pulse spiked. "Can he do that?" "He already did." A man rushed into the room. "Police units are forming outside the tower." Evelyn turned toward the windows. Far below, red and blue lights began flooding the rain-soaked street. Dante moved to the glass wall, his posture calm, but every man in the penthouse shifted with the gravity of his silence. Evelyn saw the black SUVs, the police barricades, the news vans arriving like vultures. Her father had turned the city into a courtroom, and she was the evidence. Dante looked over his shoulder at her. "This is your choice," he said. She stared at him. "What?" "I can take you out through the private elevator. No cameras. No police. You disappear until I prove the truth. And if I don't, then you walk downstairs. You tell them I held you. You go back to your father. And I don't stop you." Evelyn searched his face for manipulation. She found none. That terrified her most. "You'd let me go?" His jaw tightened. "No. A beat. But I would do it anyway." The honesty cut through her. Below, sirens wailed. Evelyn looked at the television. Her father's face stared back from a paused broadcast, full of practiced pain. Then she looked at Dante Moretti, criminal, liar, protector, witness, enemy. "What happens if I stay?" she asked. Dante's eyes sharpened. "Then your life as you knew it ends. And if I go?" His voice dropped. "So does mine." She didn't understand until later what that meant. At that moment, she only knew the police were downstairs. Her father was lying to America, and the man everyone feared had just given her the power to destroy him. Evelyn walked to the desk, picked up the black recorder, and slipped it into her coat pocket. Then she turned to Dante. "I'm not running." His chaza held hers. "No," she said. "I'm testifying. They did not go to the courthouse. Not at first." Dante took her beneath the city. The private elevator opened into a service corridor lit by red emergency lights. From there, they moved through a maze of underground passages. Evelyn had never known existed old freight tunnels, abandoned utility routes, sealed doors marked with faded city signs. Chicago above them roared with sirens. Chicago below them breathed like a secret. Dante moved with calm precision, one hand near her back but never touching unless necessary. When the floor turned slick, he caught her elbow. When distant footsteps echoed, he pulled her into shadow. When she shivered, he removed his coat and draped it over her shoulders without asking. She wanted to refuse it. She didn't. It smelled like rain, smoke, and him. They surfaced 2 hours later, inside an old church on the west side. The building was abandoned, but not ruined. Candles burned near the altar. The pews were covered in white sheets. Dust drifted through stained glass moonlight. A temporary command center had been set up between the aisles. Maps, radios, encrypted laptops, medical supplies, weapons hidden under black cloth. Evelyn stopped beneath a broken statue of an angel. "This is yours?" Dante glanced around. "It was my mother's." The answer surprised her. "She came here?" "She lit candles here every Friday." "And now you use it as a mafia hideout?" His mouth tightened. "Now I keep it from becoming a condo." It was the closest thing to humor she had heard from him. A woman in her 50s approached them, sharp-eyed and elegant in a dark suit. "Dante," she said, then looked at Evelyn with interest. "So this is the lawyer." "Evelyn Carter," Dante said. "This is Lena Voss. She handles information no one wants found." Lena smiled faintly. "Meaning I used to be a journalist before men with money taught me that truth is cheaper than silence." Evelyn liked her immediately. Lena handed Dante a tablet. "The federal order is live. Your face is everywhere. Her father is pushing the kidnapping angle hard." "And Bellini?" Dante asked. Lena's expression darkened, moving. Dante went very still. Evelyn noticed every man in the church react to that name. "Who is Bellini?" she asked. Dante did not answer. Lena did. "The rival family that paid your father 30 years ago. The same family currently trying to kill you. Before you can correct the record." Evelyn looked at Dante. "Why not tell me?" "Because I didn't want you processing 10 betrayals at once. Don't manage my emotions." His eyes flashed. "Then stop pretending they don't matter." The words landed too hard. Lena looked between them, then wisely walked away. Evelyn lowered her voice. "You don't know what matters to me." Dante stepped closer. "I know you haven't slept. I know you haven't eaten more than 3 bites since yesterday. I know every time your father appears on screen, you stop breathing for 5 seconds. I know you keep touching the recorder in your pocket like if you let go, the truth disappears." Her lips parted. His gaze softened only slightly. "And I know you're terrified that if he's guilty, it means every good thing you remember about him was a lie." Evelyn looked away before he could see her break again. Candles flickered in the silence. Dante's voice lowered. "It wasn't all a lie." She looked at him. "That's the cruelest part," he said. "Men like him know how to love just enough to make betrayal feel impossible." Evelyn closed her eyes. For a moment, the church felt too small to hold her grief. Then a radio crackled. Lena's voice cut through the air. "We have a problem." Dante turned. Lena stood near the monitors, face pale. "The court just announced Evelyn Carter will appear by video deposition tomorrow morning if she is recovered alive." Evelyn frowned. "Recovered alive?" Lena played the clip. A federal spokesperson stood outside the courthouse, voice grave. "Given the severity of the kidnapping investigation, authorities are treating Miss Carter as a victim whose testimony may have been compromised." Evelyn understood before anyone explained. "They're invalidating anything I say." Dante's face darkened. Lena nodded. "If she testifies now, they'll claim coercion." Evelyn felt the trap close. Her father had not only turned the public against her, he had made her truth legally poisonous. "What do we do?" she asked. Dante looked at the altar, then at the recorder in her pocket. "We don't make you the witness." Evelyn stared. "Then who?" Dante's eyes met hers. "Me." The church went silent. Lena straightened. "Dante." "No." His men exchanged looks. Evelyn felt something shift in the room, not fear for his safety, but fear of what his choice would cost. "What does that mean?" she asked. Dante's gaze did not leave hers. "It means I walk into federal court and testify under oath about your father, Bellini, the fire, the payments, the murders, all of it. You'll be arrested. Yes. Your enemies will use it. Yes. Your empire will survive or it won't." She stared at him, unable to breathe. "Why would you do that?" Dante looked at her for a long moment. Then, quietly, he said, "Because if you carry my truth alone, it will destroy you." There it was. Not a confession. Not love. Something more dangerous because it had no safe name. Evelyn's chest tightened. "You barely know me. I know enough." "No. You know how to watch me. You know my routines, my case files, my father's lies. That's not the same thing." Dante's jaw flexed. "I know you stood between an innocent man and a rigged conviction before you knew he was innocent." She blinked. "I know you kept digging when everyone told you the case was clean. I know you called the widow of a dock worker because one number didn't match. I know you cried in your office at midnight after reading autopsy reports for people you never met." Evelyn stared at him. "You saw that?" His silence answered. Anger should have come. Instead, something worse did. Aching. "You had no right." "No," he said. "Then why?" His control cracked just enough for her to see the obsession beneath it. "Because you were the first person in 20 years who looked at my world and still believed truth mattered." She could not move. Dante stepped back as if he had said too much. The church doors blew open. Wind and rain surged inside. A young man stumbled in, bleeding from a cut above his brow, supported by 2 guards. Dante turned sharply. "Nico." The young man looked at Evelyn, then Dante. Bellini found the south tunnel. Gunfire echoed somewhere below the church. Dante's face became ice. Evelyn's blood chilled. Lena grabbed her arm. "Come with me." But Dante was already moving toward the stairs. Evelyn caught his sleeve. He stopped. The contact shocked both of them. "Don't," she said. His eyes dropped to her hand on his sleeve. Something raw moved across his face. Then he covered her hand with his. Only for a second. Warm, firm, devastating. "I'll come back," he said. "You don't know that." His eyes held hers. "Yes, I do." Then he let go and walked into the dark beneath the church. The attack lasted 11 minutes. Evelyn counted each one like a prayer. Lena pulled her into the sacristy behind the altar, where old robes hung beside emergency medical kits and surveillance monitors. Through the screens, Evelyn saw flashes of chaos. Men moving through tunnels, sparks in red light. Dante walking forward with terrifying calm, while others ducked behind concrete. He did not fight like a reckless man. He fought like a verdict. Controlled, precise, unemotional. But Evelyn saw the moment he changed. A Bellini soldier broke through a side corridor and grabbed one of Dante's men, a boy barely older than 20, using him as a shield. Dante stopped. The gunman shouted something Evelyn couldn't hear. Then the camera angle shifted. The gunman said her name. Dante's face transformed. Not rage exactly. Worse. Fear. For her. The moment was brief, but Evelyn saw it. The man who could face bullets without blinking was afraid of what might happen to her. That knowledge moved through her like fire. Dante lowered his weapon. The Bellini soldier smiled. Then Evelyn saw something else on the monitor. Behind the gunman, a maintenance door opening. A second attacker slipping through. Heading for the sacristy. "Lena," Evelyn whispered. But Lena was on the radio, shouting warnings. The door behind them creaked. Evelyn turned. A man stepped inside with rain on his coat and a knife in his hand. Time narrowed. Lena reached for her gun, but he moved faster, knocking it away. Evelyn grabbed the nearest object, a heavy brass candle holder, and swung with everything she had. It struck his wrist. He cursed. The knife clattered. Lena lunget. The man slammed her into the wall. Evelyn ran for the radio, but he caught her by the hair and yanked her backward. Pain exploded across her scalp. "You're worth more alive," he hissed. Evelyn drove her elbow into his ribs. He grunted but didn't let go. Then the sacristy door burst open. Dante stood there. For 1 second, no one moved. The attacker pressed the knife against Evelyn's throat. Dante's eyes went black. "Let her go," he said. The man laughed. "Bellini wants her breathing." "I don't care what Bellini wants." Evelyn could feel the blade trembling against her skin. Dante took 1 step forward. The attacker dragged her back. Another step, and I opened her throat. Dante stopped. His face remained calm, but Evelyn saw his hand shaking. Just slightly. Enough. The feared Dante Moretti, the Ice King of Chicago, was shaking because someone had a blade near her throat. Her fear cracked open into something terrifyingly tender. "Dante," she whispered. His eyes locked on hers. The whole world fell away. "Close your eyes," he said softly. She did. The sound that followed was fast, violent, final. The hand in her hair vanished. The blade fell away. Dante caught her before she hit the ground. His arms came around her with a force that was almost painful, as if he needed to feel that she was alive. "Look at me," he ordered. She opened her eyes. His face was close, too close, his breathing uneven. "Are you hurt?" "No. Evelyn. I'm okay." He stared at the thin red line on her neck. Something in him broke silently. His thumb lifted toward it, then stopped before touching. She caught his wrist. This time, she guided his hand to her skin. His thumb brushed the mark with impossible gentleness. The contrast nearly destroyed her. A man capable of violence touching her like she was made of glass. His eyes lifted to hers. The space between them changed. Lena groaned behind them, alive. Radios crackled. Men shouted from the tunnels. But Dante and Evelyn did not move. His hand remained at her throat, his thumb over her pulse, feeling every beat. "You came back," she whispered. His voice was rough. "I told you I would." "You were afraid." He did not deny it. That scared her more than denial. He leaned closer, forehead almost touching hers, then stopped. Again, always stopping. Evelyn closed the distance first. The kiss was not soft. It was restrained for only 1 breath, before everything they had been denying broke open. Dante kissed like a man who had survived 20 years without wanting anything and hated her for changing that. His hand slid to the back of her neck, careful of the cut, while the other wrapped around her waist, pulling her close enough that she felt the violent beat of his heart. Evelyn should have pulled away. Instead, she clutched his coat and kissed him back with all the grief, fear, fury, and desire she had no place to put. Then he stopped. Abruptly, his forehead rested against hers. His breath shook. "No," he whispered. The rejection cut. Evelyn stepped back, hurt flashing across her face before she could hide it. Dante saw it and looked almost pained. "Not like this," he said. She laughed once, brittle. "In a church after a murder?" His jaw tightened. When you're terrified. When you've lost everything. When I'm the only person standing near you. That's not a choice. That's survival. Her anger softened into something she didn't know how to bear. You think I don't know what I want? I think men like me are very good at becoming what frightened women think they need. She stared at him. It was the most self-aware, devastating thing he had ever said. And what if I'm not frightened? She asked. You are. So are you. His eyes darkened. She stepped closer. You're terrified I'll regret touching you. His silence answered. You're terrified I'll see the monster and leave. His mouth tightened. You're terrified that if you let yourself want me, I'll become leverage. Dante's expression went dangerously still. Evelyn touched his chest, right over his heart. But I'm not my father, she whispered. His control almost broke. Almost. Then Lena spoke from the floor. I hate to interrupt whatever emotionally catastrophic thing this is, but Bellini's men are retreating, and the courthouse opens in 4 hours. The moment shattered. Evelyn almost laughed. Dante closed his eyes briefly, then stepped away, becoming the Mafia Boss again by force. But when he turned, his hand found Evelyn's. He held it in front of everyone. Not possessively. Publicly. As if the world could burn for it. At dawn, Evelyn Carter returned to the courthouse. Not through the front entrance. Through the storm. Dante's convoy moved through rain-soaked Chicago like a funeral procession for the old order of the city. Black SUVs. Tinted windows. No sirens. No police escort. Just power. Controlled and silent. Evelyn sat beside Dante in the back seat, wearing a dark navy suit Lena had somehow found in her size. A small bandage covered the cut at her neck. Her hair was pulled back. The black recorder sat inside her inner pocket. Dante looked out the window, expression unreadable. You don't have to do this, she said. His gaze remained on the city. Yes, I do. You could send the recording anonymously. They'd bury it. You could leave Chicago. I built too many graves here to pretend I'm innocent somewhere else. She studied his profile. The hard line of his jaw. The tiredness he never let anyone else see. What happens after you testify? He was quiet too long. Dunchi. He looked at her then. They'll arrest me. Her chest tightened. For what? Enough. You're going to prison? Maybe. You say that like it doesn't matter. His eyes softened only for her. It matters. Then why are you so calm? Because you'll be alive. The words hit harder than any confession. Evelyn looked down at her hands. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. You're not. You just said, my choices are mine. His voice was firm. Your father used love to make you responsible for his sins. Don't let me do the same with mine. She swallowed. Outside, the courthouse appeared through the rain. Marble columns, flashing lights, barricades, reporters packed shoulder to shoulder beneath umbrellas. The convoy slowed. Evelyn saw her father standing at the top of the steps. Judge Charles Carter. Perfect suit. Gray overcoat. Face pale with concern. For a moment, he looked like the father who used to wait up when she studied late, who taught her to cross-examine by asking her what truth sounded like, who cried quietly at her mother's funeral when he thought Evelyn was asleep. Then he saw Dante's car. His expression changed. Only for a second, but Evelyn saw it. Not fear for her. Fear of exposure. The SUV stopped. Dante's men moved first, forming a black line against the crowd. Dante stepped out into the rain. The shouting exploded. Dante, did you kidnap Evelyn Carter? Miss Carter, are you being held against your will? Is it true you're romantically involved with the defendant? Did Judge Carter lie? Evelyn stepped out next. The cold rain hit her face. Cameras flashed. Her father descended 2 steps, arms slightly open, performing relief. Evelyn, he called, voice breaking beautifully. Sweetheart, come here. The word nearly undid her. Dante stood beside her but did not touch her. Her choice. Her steps. Her truth. Evelyn walked toward her father. The crowd grew louder. Judge Carter's eyes glistened. Thank God. He reached for her. She stopped, just short of his embrace. Up close, she saw the strain beneath his mask, the calculation behind the tears. How could you? She whispered. His face froze. Only for her. Then he smiled sadly for the cameras. You're confused. He's manipulated you. Evelyn's voice trembled. I heard the recording. A flicker of panic. Gone instantly. What recording? The one where you ordered a 16-year-old boy silenced. His hand tightened on the railing. Evelyn, he said softly, dangerously. You have no idea what men like Moretti can fabricate. Dante stepped forward, but Evelyn lifted one hand. He stopped. The crowd hushed slightly, sensing something breaking open. Evelyn looked at her father. You taught me to recognize liars. His eyes hardened. And you taught me to love them. For the first time, Charles Carter's mask slipped in public. A flash of anger. There he was, the real man beneath the judge. You ungrateful girl, he whispered. Evelyn flinched. Dante moved so fast, the cameras barely caught it. He stepped between them, not touching her father, not threatening him, just becoming a wall. Every officer nearby reached for their weapon. Dante did not look away from Charles Carter. Speak to her like that again, he said calmly, and I'll forget we're standing in front of cameras. The courthouse steps went silent. Evelyn's pulse roared. Her father's face flushed. Then something red appeared on Dante's chest. A tiny dot. Evelyn saw it before anyone else. A laser sight, aimed at Dante. Then it shifted. To her. Everything slowed. Dante's eyes moved to her face. He knew. The shot cracked through the rain. Dante grabbed Evelyn and turned, taking the impact meant for her. Chaos exploded. Reporters screamed. Police shouted. Dante's men surged forward. Evelyn fell against him, her hands gripping his coat as his weight drove them behind a marble pillar. Blood spread beneath his shoulder. No, she gasped. No, no, no. Dante gritted his teeth, still shielding her with his body. Stay down. You're hit. I said stay down. She pressed her hand to the wound. Warm blood seeped between her fingers. Her father was being rushed inside by federal marshals, but Evelyn caught one final glimpse of his face. Not horror. Calculation. He had known. The shot had been planned. Not to kill Dante. To kill whichever one of them became more useful dead. Evelyn's fear became something colder. Dante's breathing roughened. Evelyn. She looked down at him. For the first time, his calm was gone. Give Lena the recorder, he said. No. Listen to me. No. His blood was on her hands. His eyes searched hers, urgent, almost desperate. If I don't make it, don't you dare. Evelyn. You don't get to stand in front of bullets for me and then talk like you're leaving. His mouth twitched with pain. You're very difficult to protect. Good. His hand found her wrist, fingers weak but firm. I need you alive. Her voice broke. And I need you not dead. Something in his expression shifted. The words had reached a place neither of them had named. Then Lena arrived with 2 men and a medical kit. We move now, she snapped. Evelyn didn't let go of Dante's hand as they dragged him through the courthouse side entrance. Cameras captured everything. The Mafia Boss bleeding on marble, the lawyer covered in his blood, the judge watching from behind glass, and the city finally began to wonder if the wrong man had been on trial. The courthouse became a battlefield without gunfire. Police locked the building down. Federal agents screamed into phones. Reporters swarmed outside. Dante was taken into a sealed medical room normally used for jury emergencies, while Lena's people and a reluctant courthouse doctor worked on his shoulder. Evelyn stood outside the door, hands stained red. A federal agent approached her. Miss Carter, we need your statement. She looked at him. He was young, nervous, trying to sound official. My statement is that someone just tried to murder me on federal courthouse steps. We understand, but given the circumstances are that my father filed a false kidnapping order, publicly discredited me, and stood 10 feet away, while a sniper aimed at my chest. The agent paled. Miss Carter, get me into the courtroom. I can't do that. Evelyn stepped closer. Then get me your superior. He's unavailable. Then you're either incompetent or compromised. The agent stiffened. The old Evelyn would have apologized. The new Evelyn did not. Lena appeared at her side, holding a tablet. You'll want to see this. On the screen, live news footage replayed the shooting. Slow motion. Rain. Red laser. Dante turning Evelyn into his chest as the shot hit him. Then another angle. Her father. For one frame less than a second, Charles Carter looked toward the building across the street before the shot was fired, as if he knew where it would come from. Evelyn's stomach turned. Lena's voice was low. The internet saw it. A headline crawled across the screen. Did Judge Carter know? Evelyn looked at the courtroom doors at the end of the hall. Then the medical room opened. Dante stepped out. Bandaged, pale, furious. You should be lying down, Evelyn said. You should be in protective custody. I'm going into court. No. The words snapped between them. Lena took one step back, wisely. Evelyn faced him. You don't get to decide. Dante's eyes burned. You were almost killed. So were you. That's different. Because you matter less? He went silent. The answer was there. Yes. To him, yes. Evelyn stepped closer, anger and fear twisting together. Don't you understand? That is exactly what he did to me. My father made me believe his life, his career, his reputation, his truth mattered more than mine. I won't let you do the same with your death. Dante's jaw tightened. I can't protect you inside that courtroom. You already did. His eyes flicked to the blood on her sleeve. Her voice softened. Now let me protect you. He looked at her like the words were impossible, like no one had ever offered him protection without wanting ownership in return. Before he could answer, the courtroom doors opened. Judge Carter emerged with 2 federal marshals and the U.S. attorney. He saw Evelyn, then Dante. His expression twisted. Arrest him, Charles snapped. Now. The marshals hesitated. Dante smiled faintly. It was not warm. It was lethal. Losing control in public, Judge? Charles pointed at him. This man is a criminal. Yes, Dante said. The hallway froze. Evelyn looked at him. Dante stepped forward despite the pain in his shoulder. I am, he said, and I'll testify to every crime I committed. Under oath, on record, today. Charles went pale. Dante's voice remained calm. But first, I'll testify to yours. The U.S. attorney stared at him. Mr. Moretti, are you offering sworn testimony? Yes. Without immunity? Yes. Evelyn grabbed his arm. Dante. He looked at her. There was no fear in his face now. Only devotion, finally visible beneath the darkness. Some truths cost blood, he said softly. Mine already did. The courtroom opened, and Dante Moretti walked inside as the real witness. His testimony lasted 4 hours. Evelyn sat at the prosecution table, no longer as a witness, not yet as a defendant. Something stranger and more powerful, the woman the entire city had tried to silence and failed. Dante sat beneath the seal of the court, one arm in a sling, black suit jacket draped over his shoulders, expression carved from stone. He admitted to crimes without flinching. Money laundering, bribery, illegal arms storage, obstruction. Deals made in rooms where justice had no oxygen. The courtroom listened in shock. But then he began to speak about Charles Carter. The dockfire, the campaign money, the Bellini family, the murdered bookkeeper named Sophia Moretti, the 16-year-old boy pushed out of a burning window by his dying mother. His voice never broke. That made it worse. Evelyn watched the jury watch him. A monster confessing, a witness bleeding, a man hated by the city revealing that the cleanest judge in Chicago had been dirtier than all of them. Then the recording played. Her father's younger voice filled the courtroom. If Moretti saw it, then Moretti disappears. I don't care how old the boy is. Charles Carter sat at the defense table now, no longer presiding, no longer untouchable. For the first time in Evelyn's life, her father looked small. When the recording ended, silence consumed the room. The U.S. attorney asked, Mr. Moretti, why come forward now? Dante did not look at the jury. He looked at Evelyn, because the truth was put in the hands of someone who still believed in it. Evelyn's throat tightened. The U.S. attorney continued. And your relationship with Miss Carter? The courtroom leaned forward. Evelyn felt the scandal waiting. Dante's face remained calm. She was my enemy, he said. A pause. Then she became my responsibility. Another pause. His eyes stayed on hers. Then she became the first thing in my life I was afraid to lose. The room went completely still. Evelyn forgot how to breathe. Charles Carter slammed his hand on the table. This is manipulation. Dante finally looked at him. No, he said. This is what you failed to kill. Charles stood, mask gone, fury exposed. You think she loves you? You think a Carter could ever belong beside a Moretti? Evelyn rose before anyone could stop her. I don't belong beside anyone, she said. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. I choose where I stand. She turned toward the judge, now overseeing the emergency hearing. And today, I stand with the truth. Her father stared at her. Something like grief passed between them. Not forgiveness. Never that. But the death of the story she had spent her life believing. Charles's voice lowered. Evelyn, I did everything for you. She almost laughed. No, she said. You did everything and called it love. His face collapsed. For 1 second, she saw not a villain, not a judge, but a man who had built a throne out of lies and could not understand why his daughter would not kneel. Federal agents moved toward him. This time, no one hesitated. Judge Charles Carter was arrested in front of the city he had ruled with a clean smile, and Dante Moretti, bleeding beneath his bandages, closed his eyes as if a ghost had finally left the room. 3 weeks later, Chicago changed its weather. The rain stopped. Snow came early, soft and silver, falling over the city with the quiet mercy of a clean page. Evelyn resigned from the federal case 2 days after her father's arrest. Conflict of interest, the papers said. Emotional compromise, critics suggested. Survival, she called it. Dante was indicted on 17 charges. He did not run. That shocked the city more than his confession. His lawyers negotiated. His enemies circled. His empire shifted under Lena's temporary control. Less violent now, more careful, though still far from innocent. Evelyn visited him once at a private medical facility after his second surgery. Then she stayed away. Not because she didn't want to see him, because she wanted to know who she was, without crisis pulling her toward him. For 21 days, she lived in a borrowed apartment overlooking the frozen river. She slept badly, ate toast over the sink, ignored calls from reporters, opened old photo albums and cried over pictures of a father who had existed and not existed at the same time. She built herself slowly, not from the ruins he left, from the truth she chose. On the 22nd day, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a key, and a note in Dante's handwriting. No guards, no cameras, no debt. Just a place where no one knows your name. If you want it. Day. Evelyn stared at the note for a long time. Then she laughed softly, because even in restraint, Dante Moretti sounded like a man trying not to beg. The address led her to a small building on a quiet street near Lake Michigan. Not a penthouse. Not a mansion. A legal aid office. Empty. Newly restored. Warm lights. Fresh paint. Old brick walls. Tall windows looking out over the snow. On the front desk sat a brass plaque. The Sophia Moretti Foundation. Legal defense for the unheard. Evelyn stood in the doorway, unable to move. Dante was inside, near the window, wearing a black coat over a white shirt, his arms still healing beneath the fabric. He looked thinner. Tired. Still dangerous. Still unreachable to the world. But when he saw her, something in his face eased. Not softness. Relief. You bought me a building? She asked. No. She lifted a brow. He glanced around. Technically, Lena bought it through 3 nonprofits and a trust. Then, his mouth almost curved. I signed one paper. Where? She walked deeper into the room, fingertips brushing the desks. What is this? A place to do what you were trying to do before my world dragged you under. My father's money? No, mine. She turned. His expression was serious now. Cleaned, taxed, and legally transferred before you ask. Despite herself, she smiled. It faded quickly. You can't buy forgiveness. I know. You can't build a foundation and erase what you've done. I know. You can't save me from pain just because you hate seeing me hurt. His eyes held hers. I know. The honesty settled between them. She stepped closer. Then why? Dante looked around the room, then back at her. Because my mother died trying to expose men who buried people beneath law and money. Because you almost died doing the same. Because if I go to prison, I want one thing with my name on it that isn't fear. Her chest ached. If, she asked. His jaw tightened. The plea hearing is next month. How long? Maybe years. The snow fell beyond the windows. Evelyn looked down. There it was, the cost. Not cinematic, not dramatic. Real. A future interrupted by consequences. Dante moved closer but stopped several feet away, giving her space as if he had learned the shape of her freedom. I didn't ask you here to wait for me, he said. Her eyes lifted. I won't make you a widow to a living man. I won't ask you to build your life around my sentence. I won't turn devotion into a cage. Her throat tightened. You practiced that. For 3 weeks. A laugh escaped her, fragile and wet. Dante's eyes softened. I'm serious, Evelyn. I know. You should have a life untouched by men like me. She walked toward him. Men like you keep telling me what kind of life I should have. His expression stilled. She stopped close enough to see the faint scar near his eyebrow. The one she had noticed in the garage before everything changed. I don't want a cage, she said. I don't want an empire. I don't want protection that feels like control. I don't want you deciding what pain I can survive. Dante nodded once, accepting each sentence like a sentence of his own. But I also don't want a life built on fear of what people will say about who I love. His breath changed. She stepped closer. You once told me I shouldn't trust you. You shouldn't. I don't trust the Empire. I don't trust the violence. I don't trust the part of you that thinks bleeding for me is easier than living honestly beside me. His eyes darkened. But I trust the man who walked into court when he could have disappeared. I trust the man who stopped touching me because he wanted my choice to be real. I trust the man who gave me keys to a place and no demand to enter. Dante looked at her like she had reached into his chest and touched something he thought had burned away years ago. And what do you want? He asked. Evelyn smiled faintly through tears. For once? To answer that without anyone using it against me. He waited. She reached for him, not because she was afraid, not because he was the only shelter left, because she chose. Her fingers slid into his coat, and she pulled him down to her. This kiss was different. No gunfire, no blood, no church shadows, no terror making desire feel like survival. Just snow against the windows, warm light on old brick, and a man who trembled once before allowing himself to hold her. Dante's arms came around her carefully at first, then fully. Evelyn felt the restraint in him, the fear, the hunger, the devotion he still did not know how to carry without turning it into protection. She kissed him until he believed she was real. When they parted, his forehead rested against hers. I don't know how to love gently, he whispered. She touched his face. Then learn. His eyes closed. For a moment, the most feared man in Chicago looked almost young, almost lost, almost saved. Outside, snow covered the city that had tried to bury them. Inside, the lights of the Sophia Moretti Foundation glowed like a promise. 1 month later, Dante Moretti stood in federal court and accepted responsibility for every crime he had confessed to. Evelyn sat in the back row, not as his lawyer, not as his weakness, not as his redemption, but as herself. When the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, Dante looked back at her. Then he faced the court. My mother believed truth could survive powerful men, he said. I spent most of my life proving her wrong. Evelyn Carter proved her right. He did serve time. Not forever. Long enough for the city to remember that consequences could reach even men like him. Long enough for Evelyn to build the foundation into something real. Long enough for letters to become their safest kind of intimacy. His letters were never sweet in the ordinary way. They were precise, controlled, sometimes only a few lines. I saw snow today. Thought of the courthouse steps. Hated the memory. Kept the part where you stood. Or, Lena says you won your first foundation case. I'm not surprised. I pity opposing counsel. Or, I still reach for my phone at 3 a.m. to check if you're safe. I don't. You said love isn't surveillance. I'm learning. Evelyn kept every letter in a locked drawer, not because they were secrets, because they were proof that monsters did not become men in one grand gesture. They became men in the quiet discipline of not repeating the harm that made them. When Dante came home, winter had returned to Chicago. Evelyn stood outside the foundation beneath soft falling snow, wearing a cream coat, her hair loose around her face, a leather folder tucked under one arm. A black car stopped at the curb. For a second, old fear passed through her. Black SUVs, rain, sirens, blood on marble. Then the door opened. Dante stepped out. Dark coat, stillness, power. But there was something different in the way he looked at her now. Not possession. Wonder. He crossed the sidewalk slowly, as if giving her one final chance to change her mind. Evelyn smiled. You're late. His mouth curved. I was detained. Federal prison does that. Unfortunate habit. She laughed, and the sound seemed to strike him harder than any bullet ever had. He stopped in front of her. Snow gathered on his shoulders. For a moment, neither spoke. The city moved around them, cars hissing through slush, people passing under umbrellas, the lake wind cutting between buildings. But inside the circle of falling snow, there was only them. Dante lifted his hand, paused, still asking without words. Evelyn stepped into his touch. His fingers brushed her cheek. Gentle, careful, learning. You're still here, he said. She covered his hand with hers. So are you. His eyes lowered to the foundation sign behind her. The Sophia Moretti Foundation. Then back to Evelyn. What happens now? He asked. She looked at him, the feared man, the witness, the criminal, the protector, the wounded boy, the man who had chosen truth at the cost of power. Then she took his hand in front of the whole street. Now, she said, we build something that doesn't need to be hidden. Dante looked down at their joined hands. A slow breath left him, as if some war inside him had finally ended. Behind them, warm golden light spilled from the foundation windows onto the snow-covered sidewalk. Inside, young lawyers worked late over case files for people no one powerful wanted heard. Outside, Chicago glittered cold and dangerous and alive. Dante leaned close, his voice low enough for only her. "I still don't deserve this." Evelyn looked up at him. "No," she said softly. "You choose it. Every day." His eyes held hers, dark and devoted. Then he bent and kissed her under the falling snow, not like a man claiming what was his, but like a man grateful to be allowed near something sacred. Across the street, a black SUV waited beneath a street lamp. This time, Evelyn did not feel trapped by it. This time, it was just a shadow from another life. She took Dante's hand and led him through the foundation doors, into the warmth, into the light, into the unfinished future. Neither of them had expected to survive long enough to want, and somewhere behind them, the city that had once tried to bury the truth watched a mafia boss walk beside a lawyer, not as her owner, not as her savior, but as the man who had finally learned that devotion without freedom was only another kind of prison. The doors closed softly behind them. The snow kept falling, and for the first time in his life, Dante Moretti did not look back.